So this is VFA, and this is a cloud-based capital asset management tool. I'll quickly log in, and so you can see what this is about. And so when we log into the system, we get this little dashboard up here. And this dashboard information here is mostly useless. If you look on the bottom left here, you see that the location is testing. And if you look at some of the FCI cores, you see you have a green FCI with 0.79 as a FCI score, which you should understand by now is quite horrible. And so this home screen is quite useless. So I will show you what is more useful for you. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top and we are going to click on Assets. And there are two aspects to keep in mind when we are navigating in VFA. At the top, you have these different tabs to select from. And on the left-hand side over here, this helps you set your site context and allows you more selection options. So if we are looking at a list of assets that are in VFA, we would click on the Assets tab. And then you see here that nothing really showing up. We're only seeing in the name here, it shows debt Suffield, and it'll show some information about that. And so if you want to change the RPOP section or detachment they're looking at, what we then do is we would click on in this left-hand side over here. So then we would click on Sites. And these are all the sites that are associated with that detachment. But if we click on the RPOPs, now we have a list of all of the detachments. And the main thing to remember about VFA is that the information was collected detachment by detachment. But you have to be very careful when you are selecting things because one of the aspects that you might accidentally choose from is D&D testing. So you don't want to include that in a future query. Here the sentence is like to be deleted. You don't want to accidentally select that as well. So for just whatever purpose, let's just click on Meaford. And so now that Meaford is selected, I double clicked and we're now looking at an overall view of Meaford. So it shows you that this is Meaford, and over here would show you replacement value and the overall FCI. Please bear in mind that these FCI scores are probably a little out of date and do not reflect actual maintenance work that has been done, but it's still, there is some information in VFA that is useful, so you do need to know how to access it. One of the areas that I do think is important for you to know about is if we have to pull information from VFA, it's probably the most likely task that you'll get. So we would click on Reports, and then we have a list here of different types of reports. And right now we already have Meaford selected. And so let's say we want to have a list. So if there's different types of asset reports, there are system reports, requirements. If we go down, projects, I'm not sure what JCAHO means. There's executive reports, sustainability reports. These are maintenance, inventory. So what we will do is look at an asset list. Again, this is a task that you're likely to get if you're tasked with something. And so once we have a list, we now have to do selection criteria. So this is like a query filter. And so we would start by choosing which detachment. And so once we choose a detachment, if we click Meaford, then it would show us all the sites. So Meaford only has one site, but if we were to take Borden, for example, we notice there's several sites here. So let's just stick with Meaford for now. We choose Meaford, and then we have a list of all the assets in Meaford in that site. We can then choose how we want to receive that information in the report formatting area. For now, I will just choose this as a PDF. Later on, I'll show you what an Excel looks like. We can also filter it depending on the type of asset it is. And we could add more filters if we want by clicking the filter button. So just to keep things easy, I'm going to just select things as they are now. I will run a report. And then the report pops up with our information. Looking at the top, we see the assets, an asset number, an age, use, size, value, FCI, and what you do not see here are AOIDs. And by now, you should realize that the AOID is quite an important tidbit of information that we need when we're conducting analysis. So as this is right now, well, interesting and useful, really prevents us from further adding value because there's no AOIDs when you use a canned report. So very often you're probably not going to be using canned reports. And so now we're going to go back to our query filter. And rather than use some of these canned reports, what we're going to do is we're going to click on Data Browser. Now we go back up and let's find Meaford again. And we're going to use all these assets. You'll notice now that I'm using the data browser, my only file options are CSV and XML, and I cannot actually import this directly to Excel. That does not make me a happy person, but it is what it is. Now, what I now have to do is click on the Edit Columns under the Report columns. And this gives me a large list of column headers that I can now add to my own report. And it's broken down here by section, site, asset, system, room, inventory, requirement, action, and line item. The area that you're going to want to look at is asset very often. And then we wait. Once asset is selected, the columns available will change. There we go. And what I want to choose is architectural object. And once I've clicked added, now when I pull the report, I will have my list of AOIDs. And then I can have my asset name, and we'll want an FCI. So I'm just going to click in here and hit F. So that gets me to the F area. Now I can get my FCI. And I also want a replacement value. So I'll hit R. I find my replacement value. And so this is some very basic information now that I can use to create a report. I will let's see if there's age in here. All right, can't find age right now. It doesn't matter. I will click OK. And now I can choose either CSV or XML. I will just keep it as a CSV. I can change how I want things to be ordered. So right now I'm just going to keep it easy and have it by AOID. Now I click my show report, it will download. And now when I open it up, I now have a list of AOIDs that I can now link up to other information. And I have my FCI and my RPRC. All right, so that is a very basic introduction to some of the reporting aspects of VFA. Once you get access, you can follow along what I did here, and then you can use a similar technique to pull information about the system so you can find future requirements, and you can use that for different types of analyses. So that's all I have for this very basic introduction to VFA. I hope you found it interesting, and we'll see you in the next video.